All right, everybody, it's the Combatcast with the man called Dave Chevy, and we are coming off the heels of an exciting UFC Fight Night. That's always fun. Adesanya versus Pfeiffer, and we're going to talk about Moicano versus Duncan, which is this weekend. And for our Patreon fans, we'll talk a little bit about career perspective of Michael Chiesa this week, and then our bonus episode we'll go and we'll talk about potential Conor McGregor fight in July, some more about this Netflix card and Netflix MMA. So that's some stuff we got going on for our Patreon users. But back to everybody else. Before we get into today's episode, Chevy, let's tell people what we got coming up.
All right, April 11th, UFC 327, Prohaska versus Olberg for the vacant light heavyweight belt. That's 9 p.m. from Miami.
Yes.
Miami card's always good, so I think that entire card's lining up to be pretty good. And then April 18th, UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Malott, 10 p.m. from Winnipeg, Canada. And then April 25th, UFC Fight Night, Sterling versus Zalal. That is at 8 p.m. Apex card.
All right, so we got some good ones coming up and maybe some not so good ones. We'll see how the Apex card plays out. But we were... I don't want to say spoiled because we definitely had a good show this past weekend. UFC Fight Night, Adesanya versus Pfeiffer. We're going to talk about the main event, and I hate to say it, but the violent co-main event, because even though the main event and they all had finishes, that co-main event was something else. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about Chiesa and stuff at the end of it, but I'm sure that's one of the prelim fights you'd like to talk about too.
Yeah, this was a fantastic card. There's a lot of fights on here that are worth mentioning. The Ricky Simone, Adrian Yanez fight. Did you see this one, Dave?
I see that one yet. No.
All right, so that one ended in a majority draw. So I thought Yanez got robbed. A lot of people thought that Simone was actually saved by the bell, like at the very end of the fight, and it was like one shot away from literally being a finish. So and then it ends up that it was a draw. So I thought he got really screwed on that one. Casey O'Neill versus Gabriela Fernandez. Did you see that one?
No.
Did you see the finishing sequence for that? Oh man, Casey, round 1 KO. She's been fighting a lot of injuries and stuff. She came back and she looked phenomenal. Best female KO I've seen since Nunes retired. And then that was overshadowed later on in the card, which we'll talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8, heavyweight Marcin Tybura. He fought Tyrell Fortune. Fortune got we talked about this last week. I said the guy doesn't even have a picture on the UFC website, but Fortune got a decision. The commentary team was throating Fortune the entire fight because he used to be a wrestler. DC and both DC's Cruz and Cormier both love wrestling, especially Daniel. But props to him for coming in and beating a top 10 guy right away. Heavyweight is absolute garbage, though. So
yes,
yeah. Chase Hooper and Lance Gibson. We talked about that fight last week. Gibson got a round 1 TKO. I thought the stoppage was a little bit early, but Chase didn't protest it too much. He got kneed and he rolled backwards and he was on his back, which he's a jiu-jitsu guy. And Lance went to jump on him and the ref broke it up, and you could see there were multiple camera angles where you could see Chase's face, and he was there the whole time. So, he didn't protest, but that doesn't make a difference if you protest or not anyway. So, yeah, Chase improved his striking offense. We saw that vast improvement in striking offense in those few fights. He was looking good, but he's a little bit chinny. So his defense is where he really needs to improve going forward because he's been hurt a few times in his last few fights. So how about Ignacio Bahamondes and Tofik Musiev? Did you see that one?
Not see that one. No.
All right. Well, you saw all Bahamondes's blood all in the octagon. That was
I remember you talking about this.
Yeah, it was so much blood. Yeah. So Tofik got a decision. What a great fight it was on the feet. Super even fight on the feet. But once Tofik got him down, he was dominant. Bahamondes kept throwing up submissions, but he probably should just try to get to his feet because he really had no chance of submitting him. So
that was Friday night, by the way, too.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it was concerning the amount of blood that was. So he had a cut that was he got elbow that was right above his eye, a vertical one that went down. So the blood didn't go right into his eye. But there was so much blood, and I think it happened in the second round, and so there was a lot of blood then. In the third round, he was super bloody too, so it was concerning, but great fight. I'm not surprised they got fight of the night. Then to open the main card, Terrence McKinney versus Kyle Nelson. Just like we said, Terrence McKinney, round 1. 24 seconds TKO. He hates getting out of the first round. So apparently he's never won a performance bonus.
He didn't get one for this one either.
Yeah, but I did see a tweet that he said, "Don't worry, guys. UFC took care of me." So whatever that means, he probably got a little bit of money, but not the 100K he's supposed to get now or whatever. So
aren't they doing like finishing money now? Like if you get like at least 25,000 extra if you finish their opponent or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever they do is not enough. You saw that one though, right?
I thought that was very funny because we were talking about that, how McKinley hates to get out of the first round, win or lose, and boy, that stayed the same.
Yeah, 24 seconds. He just went in there, put it right on him. So Michael Chiesa, Nico Price. So Nico Price stepped in on late notice for Carlston Harrison or something like that. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like a super grappler guy. Nico Price stepped in. Chiesa round 1, rear naked choke. So bummer for Nico Price. He retired, and then obviously Chiesa, we knew this was going to be his last fight going into it, and he got like a speech and a video package and stuff afterwards. Nico Price didn't get to say anything, unfortunately.
Yeah.
DC said that it just felt weird, like trying to talk to him after they did all that stuff for Chiesa.
Yeah.
But they should have just talked to Nico Price first. He put his gloves down in the octagon before DC started talking to Chiesa. And yeah, I don't know why they.
It's probably tough because there might be the format of the show or something too. Hey, if Chiesa gets the win or loss, this is his moment. And they're probably not thinking about Nico at that point because he wasn't necessarily going to retire. But obviously, he's had his ups and downs in a very long career himself.
I think he's been finished 4 fights in a row. So you probably should have figured maybe this was coming as well.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But
yeah, so we'll talk more about that on the Patreon.
Because he definitely,
I'm not too happy with that one.
Yeah, he had a good career overall, so he's an interesting one to talk about.
Did he?
Chiesa?
Yeah,
I think so. I mean,
he had a long career.
Yeah, well, I want to a good career. I mean, like a Cowboy Cerrone level. Maybe not quite Cowboy Cerrone, but I mean, he had.
Cowboy was knocking dudes out. Michael Chiesa has 0 knockouts on his record. Just
some knockouts though.
I'm a Chiesa fan, but I just think that because he works for the broadcast team, they went all in on deep throwing him. So
one of the things we'll talk about on the Patreon. This is a little quick spoiler. I'll just get out here. When I was going up and down his record and stuff like that again, and I thought he had a good career overall. I don't know if it's Hall of Fame career. He has that first ever live Ultimate Fighter thing. So if he gets in, that would be your ticket in. But I don't think it's Hall of Fame career. But that being said, whoever was his manager, they got him good fights throughout his career. He beat a lot
in the prime time of the UFC where everyone was a good fight. That's the difference.
Guys like Condit and stuff like that and getting wins over there. But when they were probably on their way out and they were still a name, so that's why I'm saying whoever's management team was hell of a job.
Yeah. Never got close to sniffing a title.
No.
His biggest achievement was winning the Ultimate Fighter and yelling at Kevin Lee about talking about his mom. But anyway, let's stop fucking talking about Chiesa because we're going to talk about it on the Patreon, and this is more than he deserves anyway. And we're going to talk about the co-main Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber. What'd you think about this one?
Scary sequence. I don't think I've ever seen anything like. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I mean, maybe
that was as close to the mousetrap. As we're gonna see,
It's scarier in the sense that, Mighty Mouse, that's just super impressive. You're throwing a guy up in the air and you're catching them in there. What she did was, but also just scary because, man, you just saw Macy's lights. I don't want to say get turned out, but she was no longer there. She was definitely in another place. And Grasso is just reacting sharply, and she is just immediately with that choke. And luckily, the ref right there. But I mean, oh my God, that could have been bad. So, hey, great for Grasso. It's hard when a fight is that quick to always talk about, but I would say this is one of those rare occasions where you have to say, talk about being in the zone, talk about being dialed in. Alexa Grasso was clearly that. I'll let you get your thoughts on it. We won't talk about fights or anything like that yet, but I do want to also add one more thing. Before I forget, I think we had it backwards last week when we were making these picks. We were talking about certain fighters at the crossroads and how we were going to see it. And boy, Grasso, I'm totally changed my mind on her right now. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, the fight didn't go very long. It was a first round KO. Very impressive from Grasso for sure. She KOs Maycee Barber with this 1-2 and spins her around. And as she spun around, she jumps on that rear naked choke before she even hits the ground. Which you'll remember, that's how she got Valentino with that sub. Is Valentino went to spin to throw a kick or an elbow or something, and she jumped on her back when she was spinning. So she's, got those very good reflexes and jumped right on the choke. So like you said, props to Mike Beltran, who got in there, stopped the fight really quickly. But although Barber looked like she was trying to wrestle Mike Beltran down when he stopped the fight, he had to lay her down. She was, the lights were on, her eyes were open, but nobody was there. She was just heavy breathing and staring at nothing for minutes. They called the doctor in, who just came and knelt over her, didn't do anything. Cormier and Cruz are just saying, "Oh, she's okay. She's okay." She literally looks like she's dead in the octagon.
Yeah,
she's
I know.
Okay. She's okay. So
yeah,
scary KO. She didn't look fine to me, but I hope she's okay. I know that she did a video. Her team put out some tweets and stuff saying that she's okay, but she's had a lot of health issues already. So, that was a life-changing knockout. Probably that'll take some years off your career for sure. Maybe off your life. So
she did an Instagram thing today.
Yeah.
And she basically, she had a great attitude. She said that this has been an exciting life and she loves what she's doing. And even though that was one of her worst moments, it's still also one of her best moments in a lot of ways, to get to do what she does. So she had a great attitude about it, but she says, obviously, this is not where we want to be, and we'll be taking some time, and,
she should take a long time, because she's still relatively young. She was in her late 20s.
Yeah.
Take the time to heal your brain from whatever that was.
I agree. Yeah, no argument here. Yeah, that was a rough one. But as far as Grasso goes, man, it's got to be Manon Ferro, I think, and the winner of that will fight Natalie Silva and Valentina.
Natalia is her name. Natalia Silva.
Natalia, sorry. I always say Natalie. Okay. Get me on the we got another Dave needs to say name correctly segment coming up. But Natalia Silva, Natalia, yeah. Natalia Silva obviously has the win over Grasso by decision. So I think she should get the fight with Valentina. But, I have no problem that if Valentina won and Grasso beat Man, that, we book that fight, because there's still, I think, 1-1-1. There's, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, she's still one of the best in the world from what I can tell in this division.
Yeah, her boxing is just levels above a lot of these other girls for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the main event here. Send us all to bed sad. Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer.
Yeah, mixed reaction. Like I said last week, I like Joe. So, I wasn't too upset for Joe, but I wanted Adesanya to win. I thought his fight IQ would be the difference as time went on. And actually, that's one of the things. Yeah, that's one of the things that I had in my notes, was I didn't think his fight IQ was on display. And also, maybe his reaction time wasn't as good as I would have liked when he was taking shots, and kind of how Adesanya in the past I felt would process things and how he would counter certain things. It felt like he was more trying to get himself into a bar fight with one of the heaviest hitters in the game. And maybe that's extreme, because Lord knows his skill level is still miles better, so many people, but it just didn't feel like the Adesanya that we knew. So I don't know, as the fight was going on, I kind of was as Joe got to win, I was almost okay, well, maybe that's for the best, and maybe Adesanya should retire now. Of course, now he's not talking about retirement, which is another story, but overall, I don't want to make it all about Izzy, or again, I didn't think his reflexes and how he normally fights with his high IQ, I didn't think it was there. But at the end of the day, too, Joe Pyfer, congrats to him, because he also got hit with some really good shots at different times. And he endured, oh my God, I don't want to take all this from you, but what a cryptic thing to say at the end too, where he talked about, I thought about killing myself a week ago. You know what I mean? He could.
I have thoughts on that too.
Yeah, that's like he said a year ago, 2 years ago. It was a week ago. But now I'm here, the grace of God. I'm just thinking well, maybe you should have not been here, motherfucker. Maybe someone should have been, had a team around you. Holy shit. But I was hoping he misspoke, but whatever. I mean, great win overall. And I look forward to seeing more from Joe Pyfer. Wow.
Yeah, round 2 TKO for him. Izzy looked really good up until he didn't. So his thing is, and I think this comes with just time and miles on his body in the fight game. Offensively, he looked great.
Yes.
He was piecing up Joe Pyfer multiple times during the fight. And then it just came to this point where, his athleticism was, starts to go and stuff like that. He relies on the reactions to slip punches so much. And then you mentioned the fight IQ. There was a sequence when he had him hurt and had him up against the cage. And, he likes to pick his shots to try to get a finishing sequence, which makes sense. He has such great range control usually. But in this fight, he was standing like 2 feet in closer than he should have been to pick these shots. And so he was just there for Pyfer to land anything he wanted on him from in close. And that's what he did. He landed a few shots on him, and then he took him down, and he was super dominant on the ground. So, Pyfer controlled him on the ground. He mounted him at one point. Izzy rolls to his stomach to avoid the shots from being mounted, and he gets flattened out, and his legs are swinging, and he's got nothing. It was embarrassing. It was bad for Izzy, but good for Pyfer. But you like you said, you don't want to make it all about Izzy, but unfortunately, I think this is more of a Izzy's decline and less of a Pyfer's adding on to his skills. I don't think that Pyfer beats anyone above Izzy with that performance, the way that he was getting rocked by Izzy. All of these guys who are at the top of their game are going to finish him in those situations, and they're not going to be standing there to get hit on the counter. So, I don't want to shit on Izzy too hard, because I think that could happen. You can get a little overzealous and get, be in the wrong place. But the way his game, like his style, is always being right in those situations, and he's just not anymore. And, that results in 5 of his last 6 are losses, I think. 3 or 4 straight was it 3 or 4 straight losses by finish? So I don't know what is next for him. I know he says that he's gonna go again and again and again, which maybe there's some fun fights for him. He's fought pretty much everyone at middleweight, so I don't know what other fights there are, but it's got to be someone way down the list. Joe Pyfer was number 14 and he finished him, so he's got to fight basically outside the top 15 guys. So I don't know. I'm just heartbroken because I love Izzy and don't want to see him go out like that. And I don't want to see this turn into some sort of Tony Ferguson, BJ Penn, cowboy situation where they just start losing, 6, 7, 8 fights in a row before they get cut. And then they go on to do whatever. I'd rather Izzy left now while he still has some value and can make some money at like MVP or something.
So actually, it's funny you say that, because I wasn't even thinking this, and I didn't have a fight for Izzy in my notes. But as you're talking about that, about potential fights, I just start thinking, and I guess if he wanted to come up to middleweight, which I know he jumps weight, MVP could be a fight.
They're like friends. I know that fight's been brought up before.
Yeah,
and they're like really friendly, and if they're really friendly, the fight never goes well. So I kind of don't want to see that.
Okay. Yeah, I got nothing. Pyfer, I'm with you. I think you're going to have to make a fight above, because he has a little bit of a name already. People like this story.
A lot of people to get there, though. That going from 14 to 4 is a lot. So
he might think it's like. So I was looking at people above him, and I was like, all right, well, I guess out of this list, I'm going to go with Strickland, because he's just lost a fight. I'm like, I think Strickland's going to fuck him up, though.
Strickland's fighting for the title next, so.
Oh, that's right.
He should fight Fluffy.
Fluffy would be the fight.
Or maybe DDP. I mean, DDP has no chance against Hazmat right now because he got dominated so hard. He's above Joe Pyfer, so maybe, he got dominated so hard he's got to fight down. You give Joe the chance, so. I don't like his chances against DDP, I'll tell you that.
Oh, no. I don't like him against a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
You never know with the power he's got. He's got a puncher's chance. And if let's say he's getting lit up by DDP, but somehow he catches with one and gets the win.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Pyfer he's going to be sitting pretty. So it's funny. It's funny how this fight game works, but I'm with you. I wasn't blown away by this performance. But then again, the guy was thinking about killing himself a week.
Oh, yeah. Let me talk about that for a second, too. So Joe Pyfer found God. He's born again and all that. And he talked about how, a week ago or a couple weeks ago, he was thinking about killing himself.
Yeah.
And then in his post-fight press, or one of these press conferences, he was talking about how he recently got caught cheating on his girlfriend that he loves very much, and that was the whole thing. The whole thing of his life. And so that's a master manipulator move to, make a giant mistake in your life like that and then immediately find God and, tell the girl that you love her so much and without her you would kill yourself and stuff like that. And I think that shit is so cringy and disgusting. I'm not saying that's exactly what Joe Pyfer's doing, but based on his previous, he's a cringy, low intellect guy. So that is the kind of shit he would do. That's what comes to his brain. So I'm not on the Joe Pyfer train. I liked him in the Contender Series. He's gotten more annoying and cringe ever since. So if this is true and he's found God and all that, good luck to him. But if it's just whatever manipulation to keep his girlfriend, then he can kick rocks.
That timeline is interesting. I know what you mean too, and I know a few guys. I remember seeing on social media that, especially, it's kind of that like you wouldn't expect it from a fighter, but it's kind of beta mentality of like, no, don't leave me, I'll kill myself. And it's like, like maybe you should go find and get some mental help then.
Also, if you cared that much, you wouldn't be cheating on.
Oh, absolutely. Also, I don't want to turn this into like a mental health podcast, but I'll just say this quick too. One of the things I love about my girlfriend, she loves about me, is that we're strong individually. And that's what kind of helps. So there's our one little soapbox for the day. We will move on and we will talk, because we talked a lot about this fight night card. Holy shit, but I mean, it was worth it. It was exciting. But hey,
we're not going to talk too much about this next.
No, we're not. The show keeps rolling though. Moicano versus Duncan this weekend. Fight night, Money Moicano, Chris Duncan. This should be an interesting one. And Chevy, before we get to the main and co-main here, are there any other of these fights that you want to just kind of mention?
No. Terrible lineup. I'm hoping for some fun fights, though. We know that just because they're not names doesn't mean that we're not going to have fun fights. But no, there's nothing that I want to go over. Let's get right into this co-main event. Vina Jandiroba versus Tabatha Baby Shark Ricci.
All right. Vina is 22-4, only 1 KO, 14 subs, and 7 decisions. She's won 5 out of her last 6, though. Performance in night twice. Tabatha Ricci, 12-3, 2 KOs, 3 subs, 7 decisions. She's won 3 out of her last 4. No real championship accomplishments here for Tabatha, but she's doing well, but I don't know if she's had the same level of competition. I'm going to go with Vina. If this, we could see a submission, but just looking at these ladies' resume, I'm going to go decision.
Yeah, Vina, 100% a grappler. She's never going to knock out Ricci on the feet. Tabatha isn't going to KO her or sub her either, so I'm with you. I think most likely a decision. Tough one to call because I do think Vina could drag her down and make her defend submissions the whole fight and get a decision, but I do like Ricci's like footwork in boxing. I believe Callum Walsh is actually her boyfriend, so I assume they work on like footwork and boxing together. So
interesting.
She's got a lot of speed, good footwork. So I think she's going to eke out a decision on the feet. Also, Vina's 37, so father time could come for her at any minute. Sure. She doesn't really use like explosive athleticism in her style of fighting, so she could stick around a little bit longer, but defensively I think that could cost her in this fight because Tabatha is fast. All right, moving on. Main event. I am excited about this main event. This is kind of part of the issues we've talked about with UFC, where they're kind of turning into that boxing model that Dana always hated, where you get the one really good fight on the main card and every other fight you don't care about. This is exactly what is going on in this one. So main event here, Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan.
Moicano is 27-1, 2 KOs, 10 subs, 8 decisions. Fight of the night, one time with Brian Ortega. Performance of the night, one time with Cub Swanson. He lost 2 in a row, but he's previously won 4 in a row. He fights nothing but quality competition. Chris Duncan, 15-2, 7 KOs, 4 subs, 4 decisions. He's won 4 in a row. He's got a fight at night once and performance night once. He's got some good momentum going. This should be a fun fight. I think Moicano, having lost 2 in a row, though, back up against the wall, I think he's going to really show up here.
One of those losses was the short notice one to Islam, too, though. So like you can pretty much throw that one out.
Absolutely. But I think that, you know what I mean? Just he's the type of guy I think that he's going to want to get back in the winner's circle big time. He's a hungry guy. He's always on the mic yelling about something. Like, he's just that kind of competitor. And I don't know. I'm not going to be shocked if Chris Duncan wins, but I'm going to go Moicano, and I'll say decision again. But I think this is going to be a fun fight on the ground and on the feet both. I think we're going to have a lot of fun here.
Yeah, like you said, fun fight. Both have a similar style where they are great grapplers that are willing to engage in a brawl. I think we're going to see mostly a brawl because I think their grappling is going to cancel out each other. And a lot of times when two grapplers, go into a fight, they don't grapple so much. So, man, Moicano's really tough. And I've seen that Duncan can get rocked a few times, but he did survive the first round with Terrence McKinney and ended up subbing him. So I'm leaning towards Chris. So I'll go Chris Duncan by decision in a war. I think both guys are going to end up getting rocked in this fight at some point, and he wins the decision.
I agree. Guys, we're going to get out of the main show and get to Patreon. Chevy, tell people we got coming up one more time.
All right, April 11th, UFC 327, Prohaska versus Olberg. That's a 9 p.m. Miami card. The whole card is probably going to be fire. And then April 18th, UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Malott. Little changing of the guard there, 10 p.m. in Winnipeg. And then April 25th, UFC Fight Night, Sterling versus Zalal, 8 p.m. from the Apex.
All right, guys, enjoy this weekend's fight. Moicano versus